Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at how to do some JSON parsing, how to do authentication. It's an assessment. Here is in-class assessment where you're provided with a Postman file. Here's the Postman file. I opened Postman. Now how do I import the Postman file? Just here is Postman. I click on import and then I drag and drop the Postman JSON file. It creates a collection. Click import. Here's the collection. Now you can see here are the APIs, and it tells you if the API is a post or a get. For example, this is the login API, and you could see here that it shows that it is a post, right? Now when I click on it's a post, when I click on a post, usually the parameters are in the body, so that it has two parameters. You can see here it has an email and it has a password. I click on send, and basically what it returns is it returns a token. This is basically a JWT token. Anyhow, this is a token that needs to be sent with every consecutive request to indicate who you are to the server, right? So anyhow, so here it is. It returns this information. So that's the login. And then what happens is that every other, so basically this is the login. We just need to provide, I'm copying the token. We need to provide, this is the login part. The sign up is very similar. The sign up, you also provide the email, password, first name and last name, and you click here and it would say this user is already created. So let's say we do s@s.com. that email is already used, so, and we call it Sally, maybe Sally. All right, and we click send, and s is also used. Interesting. So let's say ss, maybe Sally Smith. All right, at sallysmith.com. Here it is, and basically here it is. It creates a user, a new user, provides a token, okay, and gives you the same information as the login. So the login and the sign up, they return the same information, and both of them are post request. You see here it's a post. And then after you are successfully logged in, let's copy the token, logged in or signed up. If you look at the threads, this is an API which returns to you a list of threads. So basically a thread is like a forum, so basically it's a forum. It gives you who created the forum, what's the forum ID, which thread ID, the title of the forum, and when was it created. And basically if you look at the header, it doesn't receive any parameters, right? If you look at the header, you could see that part of it is bearer space, and then we paste our token, right? Here it is, and click on send. Now if this token is not sent as an authentication header, click that, it says that token not sent, and it returns an unauthorized. You see here, unauthorized. You click here, the authorization token is sent, and you're able to get the threads. All right, so now you are provided with a skeleton application. Here is our skeleton application, right? And basically if you look, we will start by incorporating OKHTTP in the project. So I went to the OKHTTP website. I'll copy the implementation part here, and I'm going to go to the Gradle. Here is the Gradle app. Scroll all the way down and add the Gradle part here, and I'll sync. In addition to that, I will go to the manifest and add the internet permission. Okay, uses permission, and it is the internet permission. Here it is. So that's the permission, and I put it at the top here, just above the application tab, application element. All right, here it is. Now I will just run the application just to see if things are okay. All right. Now what I need to ask myself is, when I go back to the login screen, I'm going to implement the login screen to start with, right? So here's the login screen. I run it, and then my question is that, is this a JSON object or a JSON array? And you should identify that by looking at, let me close this on the side here so that we could zoom in a little bit. You could see that this is a curly bracket. So the curly bracket is to signify that this is a JSON object, right? So I'll make it bigger so that you could see it. You could see here, it becomes really not readable this way. But anyhow, you see that these are curly brackets. You see here, this is a curly bracket, and that signifies that this is a JSON object. All right, so keep that in mind. And here's the API. Now, when I go back, if you look at the OKHTTP, I think I can zoom in a little bit so that you could see it better. In the OK HTTP, they have at the top something called recipes, right? Look at recipes, you ask yourself, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to post a form. You see, this is a post request, and this is a form. The form has an email and a password. So basically, post form with parameters. Here it is. So post form parameters. Here it is. And it shows you how in Java how to build the parameters, put it in the form body, and then how to create a request. Very straightforward, right? So now let's go to the login screen. So basically, when you run the app, I already wired up a lot of things here. So if you look at the login fragment, and you see at the bottom here, this is the login button. We check to see if the user entered. This is the email and password. We check to see if the email and password have been entered. Otherwise, here we do perform the login. So now to perform the login, I'll just copy. First of all, I need a client. Here's the client. Here it is. This is the client. Right, so I imported things here, and then similarly I'll copy this part. Here it is, Control C, and here we are. I copied this part, import these classes. Okay, this is the beautiful part of this library, is that you can use the recipes, right? The first thing is I need the URL, so I'll copy the URL from here. Oops, sorry. Control C, this is the URL for the login. And notice that the URL is HTTPS. This means I don't need to add the clear text attribute in the manifest, right? Okay. And then I need to add email, and the other one is password. So I have two parameters. Here's the first parameter, second parameter. So the first parameter is email, and then the password. How do I know the names? Here it is, email, password. Okay. And it's a post request, right? So email, and here is password. All right, so I have the email, password, I have the request set up, and we can go ahead and create the request. So basically, let's see, this variable should be a global variable. Sits here we are outside the method. Okay, and now I want to go and do the client. So client dot new call, I pass it the request dot enqueue new callback, and here we are. And then basically this is on failure. On failure is if there's a request times out, that's basically what's going to happen on failure. In this case, I'm just going to do print stack trace. I'm not going to report on that. But let's say you don't provide the correct password. Let's say you do this, okay, and I click send. You see here, the status is not successful. This is unauthorized, right? So now, but if it's successful, see here when I click here it says status is 201, or from 200 to 300, range 200 to 300 is successful, right? So basically, but if it's not, otherwise it's not successful. So basically, when we are here, we can go ahead and do this. We can go ahead and say, for example, if the response is successful, right? Is successful, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else, all right? All right, I would like to parse the response that comes back. So basically, I'm going to copy this, Control C, and I'm going to create a model here. I'm going to call it the auth model. Here it is, okay, and the auth model should have, it will enable me to parse this stuff, right? And basically, I'll have a string status token user ID, user first name, and user last name. And I don't need the role, so I'm not gonna get the role. So here is the first name, last name. Make it public. If you wanna use JSON, you have to make it public. But anyway, so I'm not going to use JSON, but let me add a constructor. Select none. There is an empty constructor, and I'm gonna add a getter and setter for all the parameters here that we have here. Okay. And I'm going to add a constructor that has JSON object. It will receive a JSON object, and I'll call it JSON object. So it's going to receive this JSON object, which is this one, right? So I'm going to cut this from here. So I'm going to receive this JSON object, and I just need it to parse. So basically, if I want to parse, if I receive this JSON object, in order to get the status, it's very easy. So basically, I'll do this dot status equal JSON object dot get string, and it's called status. Here it is. So that's how you get the status. And now this is because of the exception. So I'll add the exception to the message signature. So I add that, just saying that this method can throw an exception. So this is the status, right? And then similarly the other ones. So the other ones are all strings. I define them all as strings, so I can also get the token. Here's the token. Here is the token, and here's the user ID. The user ID. Here is the user email. I really don't need the user email, so I'm not gonna have it here. But maybe the first name. Here's the first name. And finally, this is the last name, and I have the last name done, and I'm good. So basically, I have all what I need here, right? And now basically I'm able to now do the authentication. So basically when I'm here, if it's successful, if the response is successful, I need to get the body. So string body equals response dot body dot string, right? So that's the body. And then I can do an auth. I can do a JSON object equal new JSON object, and I'm gonna pass it the body, right? The string body that I have, right? Now it's not happy because it can cause an exception, so I'm going to surround by try and catch. Here is the JSON object. I can do get an auth item here, right? Auth equals new auth, and pass it the JSON object. All right, and that takes care of the parsing and so on, right? So now if everything is good to go, right? If everything is good to go, I am able to have the auth item. I have to send the auth item when I have a successful registration, so or a successful login. So I'm going to pass it the auth item here. So basically all I'm going to do here, I need to pass this to the activity. So I can do mlistener dot auth is successful and send it the auth item. The problem of doing this is that most probably this is going to go and load another fragment. So it's doing some UI. So basically, because it's doing some UI activity, I have to run this on the main thread. And currently, this block is running on a child thread. So all of this block is running on a child thread or a background thread. So to get it back to the main thread, you do get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable. And then basically we do this here, right? So Control X, Control V, and we do this here. All right. Now, in the case of errors, we can show toast messages so that there are problems. I can show a toast message here. I could do get activity, and similarly, I could just say unable to login, right? Unable to login, right? Provide some correct information, and I need to do that also in get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and do this toast message in the main thread. Okay, here it is, like this. Okay, cool. So I could do something like this. And now if everything is good, we'll go all the way. Let's go to the main activity and see it's not happy because now it's expecting a method that looks like this. So here's the method. Okay, cool. So here's the method that's going to be called. So now let's run it again and see. Here we are. And I'm going to type in b@b.com and test 1 2 3. Click on login, and it seems that, how do I know if it's working or no? Let's say when we arrive here, we do a logd and say, for example, login is successful, so that we can know that login is successful. So that's demo. Right, we run this again. And you can see that, see, every time I'm going to type it, so I could go in here to bootstrap this data. I could go here, I could do binding, oops. I could say binding dot text view. I can pre-initialize them, set text, just for the testing cases, right? b@b.com, and then similarly binding dot edit text password dot set text, and I'm going to do test 1 2 3. 1 2 3, right? So basically when we run it now, it will be pre-populated, and I don't have to worry about re-entering it every time. I click on login, and now it says auth is successful. This means that the authentication is successful. I can even print just to show you what I'm having here. I could do here logd, and I could do the body so that you could see that body, and demo here. We run this again, and you could see that I'm able to log in, right? Here's that, and you see here is the response, right? I have the response, and auth is successful. I can also put a breakpoint. Let's say we put a breakpoint here, and we run it in debug mode. Okay, and when I click on login, it stops here. This means that I have an auth object. You look at it, you see that the data is coming into the auth object. So the parsing is working correctly and we're good to go. Okay, so I'm good with auth. Now what I need to do with the auth is when you go in the main activity, I need to pass that auth object, because the auth object has, you see, when I go and say get me the threads, if you look at the next part of this, when you go and say get me the threads, I need to call this API in order to get this data, right? In order to get this data, I have to call get API threads, and in here I have to provide an authorization header. That authorization header is in the auth object, right, that we just parsed. All right, so basically I have the auth object here. If we look at the forums fragment, right, I did remove the new instance method. I need to implement a new instance method, right? So I'm gonna copy the new instance method from another fragment to be used here, because I need to send it. Auth. I'll call it mauth, right? For example, something like that. And basically what I'm going to do also is in the main activity, I'm going to store that auth object. So basically I'm going to store, the auth object here. I'm going to call it the auth object mauth, right? Here it is. And basically when you come in, when the auth is successful, I'll say this.mauth equals auth, right? And then I need to send it to the next screen. So basically I think I have that in the method implemented in the create forum messages, I think here. Cool, I'm gonna copy some things here. I need to copy these, and maybe I'll copy all of them and delete the stuff I don't need. I just need this, the new instance, you know. So I go back to the forums fragment and I'm gonna paste some things here. I'm gonna delete some of them. So here it is, Control V. And I don't need this array list and this forum, and I don't need this, and we're good here. All right, good. So here is the parameters, right? So this is all stuff that we did before. Here is the parameter, this is the variable, right? This is the constructor. The constructor is going to return this. Here it is, here it is, here it is, and then we put serializable. We have an auth object that's coming in, call it auth, and then basically we're gonna, it's not forum, it's, I'll call it auth. All right, copy that here, and here is the auth and auth. So basically you're going to pass me an auth object, right? It's not happy because most probably the auth object does not implement serializable. We go here and all the way up, we say implements serializable. Here we are. Now we go back here, it's not complaining, good. So now here we say mauth equals auth get serializable arg auth. So I have the auth object in here. So basically I'm going to pass you the auth object, and this is the code that takes care of that. So basically if we just cut this from here, put it here, this is the code that takes care of this, right? Passing on the auth object. So now if we go to the main activity, here is where we are going to move that auth object here. So basically I'm going to say get support fragment manager dot begin transaction dot commit, right? And then basically I'm going to replace the current fragment with, okay, replace the current fragment dot replace r.id dot root view with with forums fragment dot new instance, and send it the auth object. All right, so basically if the authentication is successful, it will come here and it should load the forums fragment. In the forums fragment, you see we need to show the name of the person, welcome Bob Smith. So where we're going to do all of this, we are receiving the auth object. The auth object has the name of the user, on view created. I already have all the adapter stuff done and so on. You can review that at your own time, and we're going to use the adapter, but let's see. So basically here I'm going to do this binding.textView welcome.setText. I'm going to say welcome, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say mauth.get first name, and then I'm going to add to that a space, and then we'll do the last name, mauth.get last name. So that should show welcome Bob Smith. So run this. Here we are. Here's the app. I log in and it crashes. Okay, good. So now it crashes most probably for some reason. Let's see. So let's scroll down here, the forums fragment, and it throws an exception. It says that the forums fragment listener is not implemented. So let's have a look and see in the main activity what is going on here. So the forums, this is create the login listener. Oh, we don't have that method. So here we are. Okay, so this is there's an adapter for the forums that's not created, implemented, and here we are. You know, the M listener that we have here, the M listener for the forums fragment is causing it to crash, so the main activity is not implementing it. We'll go and implement these in a little bit, but that's what's causing it to crash. So here we are, and I click on login. We go in and it says welcome Bob Smith. Perfect. So I'm able to get the data through. I'm able to get it from the login, move it on to the main activity, and then from the main activity go down here. All right. So now, as for the threads, if you look here, the threads, I'm going to call this API in order to get the list of threads. You see here, this is the list of threads, right? And our list of forums, right? And basically, I want to get them. So basically, in order to get them, I have to call this API, which is the threads API. Okay. And the threads API has an authorization header, and I show you how to create a request that has the authorization header. We'll come back to it, right? I need a token, right? The token is coming in the mauth variable, right? Okay, cool. So now we go back to the forums fragment, and in the forums fragment, I'll create a method called getForums. Here it is. So basically, that's what I would like to do. So to get the forums, is this a post or a get? This is a get request, all right? It doesn't have any parameters, no parameters at all. Right. So now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the code that we have here, that I provided you with here, Control C. I'm going to paste it here, Control V, and options enter, import the class. Here we are. And now the URL, I'm going to have to get the URL that I need here. I'm going to remove that stuff because I have the token, right? The token here is going to be mauth.getToken, right? Now, what's my URL? The URL is this one. There it is. And we post the URL. So we're good. We're able to create a request. It's a very simple request. Here it is. And now basically I just need to create a, let me go in and create a client. So I'm going to copy the same code, put it here. This is my client. Here's the client. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Client dot new call, pass on the request dot enqueue, new callback, and here we are. E dot print address. All right. And then on success, here I'm going to say if response is successful, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to do something else. All right, so here we are. Now if it's successful, I'm going to get to a string string body equal response dot body dot string. Notice that it is string, the one we are trying, response, it's not request. Response dot body dot string, right? Okay. Not to string, okay, good. So now if we look at this, is this a JSON object or a JSON array? This is a JSON object, right? Inside it, there is a JSON array called threads. I'll copy that. So I'll have a JSON object. I'll call it JSON object equals new JSON object from the body, right? So that's this. And it needs a try catch block. Now I have a JSON array. I'll call it JSON array equals JSON object dot get JSON array, and it's called threads. Perfect. So basically I'm able to get threads. Now inside threads, this is a JSON object. It's an array of JSON objects, of threads, right? Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do here is for I, I'm going to type for I and press tab, right? For I equal to 0, I less than JSON array dot length, right? And now from that I can get a JSON object. Okay, I'll call it JSON. I'll call it, for example, forum JSON object equals from the JSON array get JSON object at which index I. Okay, so I have the JSON object for the forum. Now if you look at this project, I have a forum class that I created for you that has you see it has the JSON object description here. You see here it is. I'm going to paste it for you as a comment. Basically it gets the JSON object and I'm asking you to parse it here. All right, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to get the forum. Here it is, forum equal new forum, and we pass it the JSON object. That's what we're going to pass it the forum JSON object, right? This forum JSON object, we're going to pass it to the forum, and that forum we're going to add it to forums. There is an array list of forums, add forum. basically, so that the recycler view can display it. All right. So here is the forum. We're going to do that. Now let's do the parsing for the forum. This is the JSON object we're trying to parse, and now we want to parse these things. So basically, I can get the thread ID. So I could do this dot thread ID, this dot thread ID equals JSON object dot get string and it's called thread ID, right? So that the name of it is same name as here, thread ID. All right, here we are. It's not happy because this can throw an exception. So we can go here and add it to the signature of the method. It can throw an exception. So that's the thread ID. Copy that. You see the thread ID is at the same level as the object. So this is the object starts here, and here is the thread ID. We can look at Postman here also. You see here, this is the object starting here, and there is a thread ID, and then there is title. Here it is, title. And then similarly, we go back to Postman, created at, which that's why I copied it here, so I don't have to go back and forth. Created at and created at. That's good. So I'm able to get these three. I want to get the name of the user who created it, and we called it created by fname, created by lname, and so on. In order to do this, I need to do this. This dot, let's say, created by user ID, okay, equals JSON object dot get, inside the JSON object, get another JSON object, which is called created by, right? Here it is. Dot get string from inside that other JSON object, and that string is called created at. Make sense? So we're able to get it this way. So we're drilling down into that object. We go in here, JSON object, go into here, and then from that JSON inner JSON object, we're able to get the user ID. So I'm gonna do the same thing. This is, I'll get the first name. Let's say this one is gonna be the first name, and this one is gonna be the last name. Okay, and then this one is going to be the user ID. All right, so basically first name, last name, and user ID. Created by is the name of the outer object, and then inside that object you have these parameters. Now first name, here it is. This is first name, and this is last name. Cool. So now if this is all good and good to go, this means that I'm able to parse the user object. So the forum object. So let's remove this to do, and we're good to go. So I have a forum object. I'm able to parse it. I have the forum object. I go back to the forums. Now, after I'm done here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and I'm going to tell the adapter that the notify data has changed. Why do I have to do it this way? Because this is a UI change. The UI change, you cannot do it in the background thread. You have to do it in the main thread, and that's how you do it in the main thread. All right. So now if I run this, it should show me the list of threads. You see here, I'm logging in. And here we are. We are able to see all the threads that are here, right? You're able to see these threads. That's amazing, right? So we're able to show you the threads, right? Perfect. So now we're able to show the threads. Now, something to keep in mind is that we're probably going to create a fragment, create a forum, right? This takes you to another screen. And then when you come back, the problem is that when you come back, you pop from the backstack. And when you pop from the backstack, this method gets recalled again. And then it calls get forums, and then the get forums goes to the API, asks it for the data, and it appends the data back to the list. And you will see that the size of the list will grow, will keep on growing, because every time you come back to that screen, it calls the API again. So what we need to do is, before doing all of that, we need to, let's say here, we could go in and say forums dot clear. So basically, before we add anything to it, we could say forums dot clear. So this clears everything from the forum, and then goes in and does whatever is happening here, right? So basically, we can do this way, right? Just to make sure that we can even cut it from here and do that somewhere here, if that's gonna make it easier for you. So anyway, we clear the forums, do this stuff, and then notify data has changed. Now we run this, nothing changed. This is just to remove it and so on. All right, so we're good here. It's a get request. We went in. Now the trash can. The trash can should only appear if the user who is logged in is the one that created the forum. So in order to do that, we have to go into the adapter. There it is. Into the view holder and set up this here. So basically, how will I do this? You see here, there is a forum that we are displaying. So basically, I could say if mforum.get. You see here, if a forum has who created it, so like the user ID who created it, right? And in the login, we already have the user ID who is logged in. So basically, we could say get created by user ID is equal to mauth.get user ID. If they are equal, we'll do something else. If they're equal, means that this forum, the creator of this forum, is the currently logged in user. So basically, in that case, we will do binding mbinding dot image view button dot set visibility view dot visible. Right, so we'll make it visible. Now if it's not equal, we'll make it invisible. All right, and then basically that's if he created it or she created it. Otherwise we will make it invisible. And then binding dot image view dot set on click listener delete forum set on click listener new on click listener. So basically here we're gonna put the code to delete the forum. Okay, all right, cool. So now let's see if we're able to show we are logged in as Bob Smith. We run it again and see if there are any. Here we are. You see here there are some trash cans that are not, because this was created by Zach. Similarly, this one was created by Zach, and so on. So the ones that were created by Bob Smith have a trash can in front of them. Okay, cool. So now how to delete? Let's go back here. Let's have a look at the APIs that we have here. You know, I'm gonna close this one. So I'm gonna save this, close it, right? And then maybe save this one also and close it. And you have the login. I'll keep it for the time being. Now here is how you delete. So here is the delete, and the delete is a get request, right? Here it is. It's a get request. And here's the API for the delete. I'm gonna copy it just to see. And you could see that it only has a header. So it's just a get request, very similar to the request we just made. But you could see that the thread ID is sitting here at the end of this URL. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say string URL equals. Here we are, and basically the URL is going to have the mforum.get thread ID, and that's the thread ID. So instead of having it like this, I have the URL. Here it is. And then I'm going to do the same thing. It's a get request. So basically when we are, if you go back to get, this is a get request. I'm going to copy that, getting the forums. I'm going to paste it here. And instead of using this long URL, I'm going to use the URL parameter that we have here. So basically here it is, and it has the header. It's a get request. And I'm going to use the client dot new call to request enqueue new callback, right? And e.print trace just to see the error here, and then we'll do the same business that we did again here. Meaning what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if it's successful or no. If response is successful, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else. Here I'm going to get the string body equal the response dot body dot string. Okay, and then basically we're gonna look at some things here. So let's go back here. When you try to delete, you need to delete something that is present. So let's go get the threads. Let's pick, for example, this thread ID and try to delete it. So let's do, where is the delete? Here it is. And I'm gonna delete this thread ID. Click send, and then it says status is okay, right? So I don't really need to, I just need to figure out now if I try to delete it again, and you see here now it's a bad request, unable to delete the message, and so on, right? So basically all we need to do is to check to see if it's successful or no. And if it's successful, I don't even need to parse. I'm not going to even parse. Basically, if it's successful, I just need to refresh the list. In order to refresh the list, I need to ask to just say get forums. When I do get forums, I ask the server again for the list of forums, and it gives me the list of forums, and I refresh the list. In order to do that, we need to do that also in the main activity. So what I'm going to do is I'll say get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and I'm going to just say get forums. Okay, that will refresh the forums. Else I could just have a toast indicating that there is an error. Toast get activity, and I could say error deleting forum, right? Something like that. And I'll do that also in the main activity. So get main thread, get run on UI thread new runnable, and I'm going to do the toast on the main thread. All right, cool. So we are here. We can test this now, and let's run it. So basically what we did is that when the user clicks, we're going to delete that forum, right? So here we are. Now let's delete. Let's say we delete. Let's say delete this one. It has FD blah 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 under this one. So click here, and you see here it's deleted. See here, testing. Cool. So I'm deleting the forum entry. See that I have deleted it successfully, and so on. Right? Cool. Okay, perfect. So we are able to do this. Let me log out. I will log in as I didn't have the logout implemented, so we can do that. Let me change it to, instead of B as B, we'll log as A.com. And that's Alice. So we run it. A at A. We run it. Alice Smith. And you see that Alice didn't create any forums. The whole thing is empty. Oh, cool. So we're able to do now the forum deletion. Okay. Creating a forum. Let's go back and see the API. So we have first to go to look at API. So we don't need to delete anymore. I'll save the changes. Here it is. Okay. Now creating a forum. So basically it's called thread add, right? So basically if you look, it's a post request add. This is the body. The body, you just have the forum title, and this is the header. You need the header and authorization header at least. All right, good. So now if we're going to do this, I need the URL, and it's a post request. Did I do any other post requests? Yes, I did. The post request that I need the authentication token. See here, I need the token. Cool. So now what I need to do is, if you look at create forum, right? The create forum needs to get the mauth object, right? And I already wrote that code. So basically I need to pass it to the mauth object. If you see the forums fragment, I already have the code that passes it in the new instance, right? So I'm going to copy this code from here and go to the create forum, and I'm going to paste it here. Right, so here it is. Cool. So I have that, but then just need to edit to make things look better. So this one is going to be this forum, create forum, and then the on create perfect works perfect. So I have the mauth. So now there is a new instance that allows me to pass on the mauth object. Okay, I have that already. In the main activity, when the user clicks on create, so basically here create forum, we have a listener, and it says go to create forum. So that's in the main activity. There is go to create forum. What I need to do is get support fragment manager dot begin transaction dot commit, and basically I need to replace r.id.root view with create forum fragment dot new instance and pass it mauth, right? And add to backstack. Add the other one to the backstack, and here we are. So we add to backstack. Now what I need to be careful of is to make sure that if this guy has yes, it has an interface. You see here there's an interface for it, and I already implemented the interface, so it doesn't crash. So let's run it. Alright, we log in, create forum, takes me here. I'm gonna type in the forum and click submit, and that is a post request. As you remember, this is the creating the forum. I'll copy the URL, and I need the title, which is whatever the user types, and I need the header. Alright, so I can get the header. So basically if we go back here to the login part, so where is the login? The login uses the post, is a post request. So if you go back again here, the login is also a post request. You see, post says post. Cool. So now the login part, we had implemented it already, so I'm just going to go in and use the code that we had. So here it is. I just need this part. Okay, Control C. I'm gonna close that, create forum, and if you scroll and on view created, you see we do the stuff here. Here is where we need to call the API. Here it is. I need also the client. So now here I'm copying the code for the client. Go back here, and here's the client. Oops, I have the code for the client, and what I'm going to do is, here it is. I also need to add a header. Okay, this is the form body. I need to add header, and I'm gonna take that from the forms fragment. I already have that code somewhere here, and here's the header stuff. See, to avoid any mistakes, I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna add the header here. This adds the header, the authorization header, using the auth token, and then I don't need two parameters. I only have one. One of them is called it's called title, right? So basically, how did I get it? It's called title here. If you go to the body, it's called title, and then this is the text that the user entered, and here is the title that this is the text that the user entered coming in from the edit text. Here it is. Cool. So now this takes care of calling the API, and then basically when you call that API, and if everything goes well, Like if you go here and you click on send, you get back a response. It gives you some information. Then if everything went well, if there is a problem, I remove the title and I click send, it returns back a bad request. So if it's successful, not successful, that's what we need to do. So here we are. Let's do client dot new call request dot enqueue new callback. All right, e dot print text trace, and then here we have a response. If the response is successful, we'll do something else, we'll do something else. All right, good. So now if it's successful, what we're going to do is, if not successful, I can tell them that it's not successful, but if it's successful, I will do the following. I will just go, just use the mListener. So get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and I will do mListener dot completed the form creation. Cool. And that's it. I can put the toast for the error message. You can do that. Clean up this code a little bit if you want, but you could see here there is two methods. One of them is clicked on the cancel, the other one is done on the creation. So here we are. Now I click on login, create a forum, it goes here. I click cancel, goes back, it crashed. So let's see why did it crash. Logcat, fatal exception, the forums fragment. So the forums fragment, okay. The problem is in the forums fragment. So here we are, the forums fragment, okay. Must implement the forums fragment listener. So the activity doesn't implement the forums fragment listener. That's weird, because if you look at the main activity, create forums fragment, here's the forums fragment listener, and we did implement all the methods for it. Maybe I need to run it again. I think probably this is an old error. The error probably was at the bottom of the log. I deleted it. Click login, create forum. Okay, here we are. It's not working for some reason. I click here test, or I click cancel. I click cancel, and it goes back, which is okay because it pops the backstack, right? Create forum. You see, if you look at the main activity, the cancel, if you scroll down a little bit, cancel create pops the backstack. Completed create also pops the backstack. So now let's say test create forum, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Let's make it a little bit bigger so you could see it, and I click on submit, and nothing is happening. Okay, so why nothing is happening? Is there any errors? Let's look at logcat. No errors, no nothing. Okay, good. Cancel, and we'll go and see what's going on. All right, so when we do create forum, go to create forum, we go here and we add the mauth to it, add to the backstack and commit, and cancel. We just pop the backstack. Let's have a look and see. Maybe we need to, let's go to create forum fragments. When it is successful, we just completed. Okay, else let's do something here. Log D, I'm going to say error, right? Cool. So let's, did we wire it up? This is on the submit. All right, so let's see, we run it again. All right, here we are. I click here, create forum, test, submit, and something is happening. We are hitting the error case. All right, good. So now it's error. Oh, the URL is not correct, right? This is not the right URL. Here's the URL, is called add. Here it is. And here is the correct URL, right? Okay, good. So now we run it again. We click login, create a forum, test, submit, and it crashes. Good. So that's a different crash. It's now crashing. Well, that's great. We go here, invalid item position, inconsistency detected, blah 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 blah. If you scroll down a little bit, it has to do with the view handler. So let's see, or the recycler view. There's something wrong with the recycler view. So let's see what's going on and where did the error happen. Okay, good. So that's good. We were good here. So now let's go back to the main activity. And what I'm going to do is, let's see where in the forums fragment this crash is happening. So basically what's going on is we are adding the forums, clearing the forums, and notifying that the data has changed. All right. And it's saying that there is inconsistency. So let's run and see what's going on here. So we run it, login. See, this is the one that we just created. It's correct, right? Let's create another one. Let's say test, and let's say we see if the error happens. Let's click submit, and it's here. We're good. So now create a forum, hi, and submit, and here's hi. Create a forum, cancel, and no problems. So we're good. I think we're good here. Test, submit, and here's test. So we're able to get the forums. We're able to delete, and we're able to create. We don't have a problem. I think I just had to run it, and we're good to go. So we are able to get the forums. We're able to create a forum. Now, what about logging out? So to log out, I'm just gonna go in to the main activity. If you look in the in this class, which is the forums fragment, so we don't need the create forum anymore. We already created it. There is a button called logout, and logout will call logout in the main activity. So if you go to the main activity, there is logout, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do mauth equal to null, and I will go and just load the login fragment. Okay, so I'm going to copy that here and load the login fragment. All right, good. So we run it. Here we are. Log in, and I can log out. Takes me back to the login screen. All right, good. So we are good here, right? Now we are done with the creation. When you click on one of them, we want to go to the next screen, which is each forum can have messages under it. So we need to go to the forum messages fragment. So basically, when you click on a forum, so if you scroll down a little bit here, this is the forums listener. We want to go to the forum messages fragment. And where is this triggered? This is triggered in the adapter. So we go here. You see here inside the view holder, there is an on-click listener that's set up on the root of the element, and it passes on the forum to this method, and we receive the forum here. And basically what we would like to do is pass on that forum to the next screen. All right. We also need to pass the auth object. So basically I need to go and edit how we do stuff here. So let me go to the forum messages fragment. It already has a new instance that's going to receive a forum, but I want to add to that also a private auth mauth, right? So that's this, and I want to add another parameter here. I'm going to call it the auth parameter, or the auth key. The key is auth. All right, good. We're good here, and I'm going to expect an auth, right? And then basically I can go in here and say args.put serializable arg auth comma auth, right? And then I can receive it here also. I can do mauth equals auth get arguments dot get serializable arg auth. So basically I'm able to get the auth here, and I have the auth here field also. So now in the main activity, when I'm going to the forum messages, what I will do is I'll say get support fragment manager dot begin transaction, and then commit, right? And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to the replace. I'm going to go back here and do replace r.id.root view, comma forum messages fragment dot new instance. I'll pass the forum and the auth. All right, here we are, and then add to backstack. Add to backstack. Here we go. So basically, we are able to go to the next screen. And what does the next screen look like? If you scroll up here, this is what the next screen looks like. Very, very similar to the forums. There is a list. We can go and work on that list. And then there is a creating messages. So let's go and work on the list first, or maybe let's go create messages first and then work on the list, right? Just so that we could see how things are. Or let's get the list. I think I have some forum messages that have messages in them. Let's see. And just to show you that it's working here, I click on one of them. It goes here. Go back, click on this, goes here. None of them have messages, it seems. So let's go back here. No messages. So yeah, so we'll see what we're going to do. Let's scroll up. We click here and it takes us here. Let's set up this text that shows up here, which is, we already have the forum, so we don't need the forums fragment anymore. We have the forum messages. Now we are here. So basically I can go here. I say binding.text view created add.setText. Sorry. Set text mforum.get created at, all right, and then binding.text view creator name dot set text mforum dot first name plus space plus mforum dot last name. Here we are. And then binding dot text view the title dot set text mforum dot get title. All right, so basically if I run this, it will show me the title and information related to the forum. Here we are, log in, I pick the test and it shows test and this information. Now I just want to create a message. So now if you look here, this is how you add a message. Here it is. You add a message. It's a post call, and it has the message itself that you want to add and which thread you want to add it to. This is the message and the thread that you want to add it to. And this is the URL. I'm going to copy the URL. It's a get or a post. This is a post request. You see here it says source post request, and this happens when you click submit. So basically this is the URL and it's a post request. So now let me think about where did I use a post request. I just used the post request in create forum fragment. Right, here it is. I'm going to copy that from here, create forum fragment, go here and paste it. Okay, and I will also get from here the create forum fragment. I can get also the I need the client. Where is that client here? Client. Here is the client. I'm gonna copy it from here and close that. And I have the forum messages back again. And here is the client. I'll paste it here. Here's the client. Now I have that. So now let me just make sure I have the correct URL before I forget. This is the correct URL. Okay. And I remember it needed two parameters. Here's two parameters, right? One of them is the thread ID. So if you look here, one of them is thread underscore ID. I'm going to copy and paste. The second one is message, right? I'm going to copy and paste, right? So here it is. The thread ID is mforum.get thread ID, all right? And then this one is the message, whatever the user typed, which we can get from here. You see, I'm getting it from here, from the edit text. Cool. And this is the URL. And then we do the same thing. Client dot get dot new call request dot enqueue new callback. All right. E dot print text trace. And then here we're going to do if is response is successful, we're going to do something else, we're going to do something else. All right, so here we are. Okay, good. So now if you look here, if it's successful, let's say we click on, let's look at the threads that are out there. Here are the threads that are out there. Let's say thread 42. I'm going to add to thread, where is that? Close this, don't save. Post messages. I'm going to add to thread 32 this message, let's say message 42. Send. It got created. See? If there's any problems, let's say the thread ID is wrong. Let's say we do this. Thread ID is incorrect. It comes back with an error, bad request. Okay, so it needs to be a valid thread ID, right? And now we added two messages here. So basically, if it's successful, I can just go ahead and ask the list to refresh, because you see at the bottom here there is a list. I can ask the list to refresh. So I could say if it's successful, I can do get activity dot run a UI thread new runnable. I can do adapter dot notify, or no, I can say get messages. Right, so basically get messages is a method that we have to write, and that method is a method that actually enables me to get the messages, and I'm going to call it to refresh the list, right? Very similar to the case when we did the deletion, right? When we did the delete, we get forums. Here we are getting messages. Okay, cool. So now to get messages, it's exactly the same code for getting. So here you see here, now I added some messages for this thread. Copy that. Now to get the messages for a thread, this is the here it is. You give me the thread ID at the end of the URL. You click send, and then these are the messages in that thread. Let's add another one. Let's say if we add another one, send. Go back here, click on send, and it will show you three. You see here, one message, second message, and then third message. Cool. So this code looks very, very similar to when you want to get threads. You see here when you're getting threads, looks very similar. It's called threads here, but when you get messages, it's called messages, and it looks very similar. It has a message ID and so on. So it will be very, very similar code, and it's a get or a post. This is a get request. This is the URL. Here, let's copy that. Do this here. All right. So this is the URL. And then basically it's a get request, and we did the same get request when we look at the forums fragments. When you say get, when we had get forums, you see here we had get forums. It's exactly the same code. You see here, very, very similar. I'm going to copy that from here, and I'm going to go here and paste it. right? Okay, so now we just need to update the URL. So this is to get the messages. So I'm going to copy that from here. This is the URL. Here it is. And then what we need to add to it is the thread ID, right? So mforum.get thread ID. All right, here we are. So we're able to get the threads. Here it is. Yep. Sorry, we're going to get the messages inside the threads. And then basically what we're going to do here is same story. The client, this is the forum. We already have a client. So the client dot new call request. Now, is it a get or a post? See, it's a get request, right? Good. Dot enqueue new callback. And that's how we do this. E.print trace, and then here we're going to do some parsing, right? So basically we go in, say if the response is successful. If the response is successful, then we're going to do something else. We're going to do something else. So now if it's successful, we're going to do a string body equal response dot get or body dot string. So that's the response. And now we look, is that response a JSON object or a JSON array? This is a JSON object, right? You see here. So basically we have a JSON object. Here it is, equals new JSON object with the body. Here it is. All right. Here we are. Hover over. A try catch. It needs a try catch block. Surround by try catch. We're good here. Now what we're interested in is this messages stuff. So basically we'll do it's a JSON array, and we'll call it JSON array messages, for example, equal JSON object dot get JSON array, and it's called messages, right? Here it is. How do I know? Here it is. Messages is a JSON array, square brackets, and then this is one message. Okay, so basically I already have that code for you here. So basically we will do message. Oh, now we need to loop over these JSON array. So for each, not for each, for I, it's the same code we wrote before, and then this one is going to be JSON array messages dot length, and then inside it there are JSON objects. So that I want a first one, second one, and so on. So there is a JSON object. We'll call it, for example, message JSON object equals to the JSON array dot get JSON object at index, and the index is I, and here we are. So we have that. We create a message out of that. Message equal new message, and I pass it the message JSON object. And after that is done, we go messages dot add the message, and we're good here, right? And then here we're going to notify that it has changed. So basically we're going to go here and get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable adapter dot notify that has changed dot notify that has changed. And similarly we're going to clear the messages. We're going to say messages dot clear, right? We're good here and we're good to go. So basically message dot clear, and then we do the stuff here and so on, right? Okay, good. So now we clear the messages, because if we come back, after, I don't think we need to clear in this case, but anyway, if we come back to that screen, from the backstack, we don't want to get into the case where, so clearing it is safe, right? So clear, notify the adapter that has changed. Now look at messages under the model. Here it is, message, and the code is very similar. You see here, this part is very, very similar to what we had in the forum. So I'm going to copy the code we had in the forum. Here it is. Control C. I'll close that and go back to the message. Here it is. The forum has message ID instead of thread ID. Message ID. Here it is, and it's not happy because it needs to could throw an exception. So that's this. Now the message doesn't have a title; it has a message. So here is message and message. Created at is the same, so we're good. So we did this one. The user stuff is exactly the same. Created at, so that's why created by, and then if name, L name, user ID, exactly the same. So I'm done with the parsing of the message. And now if we run this, we should see something. So we go back here. We log in. Here's the test, and it has 4 messages. We need to update the trash can, the same code that we had. So we go back here, we go all the way to the adapter. Where is the adapter code? One view created, Where's the adapter? The messages adapter. Scroll all the way down. Here's the delete icon. It's exactly the same code. So basically we go here and we check to see if the mauth.get user ID, user ID dot equals the mmessage dot get message user created by user ID. If they are equal, we'll do something else, we'll do something else, and we'll do the delete also straightforward. So that's this one. But let's say we go in and say mbinding dot image view dot set visibility to view dot visible, and then otherwise it's going to be invisible. Copy that and we'll do it as invisible. All right, so now if we run this, let's see, we run this and we're logging in as Alice, and we pick this, and Bob is the one that created these messages, and that's why, let's say we do Alice here, we say hi, click submit, and you see here there is a message here that was created. We have that code, right? We did implement this code here. When you click on the create message, we already created it, but we never tested it. So when you look at create message, submit, and we did the code to create a message, to add a message, right? And then what it does is that on success it calls get messages, so it reloads the list again, right? Like this, click submit, and you see here that it's showing up here, right? Cool, so we are able to do this. Now the deletion of a message is very similar to the addition of a message, right? So basically if you delete a message, you just need, it's a get request, right? And you just, this is the URL, and we need in the header we need the token, right? So the same story. So basically, where's the code? We go here, we do mbinding dot image view dot set on click listener new on click listener, and this is the URL for the delete, and this is a get request. So we go back again, it's a get request, it has the message ID at the end. So now in order to do this, I need to make a call. Let's say it's a get request, so I'm going to use the same request we had here, right? And we'll go and put it here, and instead of this I'm going to use the URL for the delete. Here it is, and then at the end I'm going to do mmessage dot get message ID. All right, so I'm deleting a message by its ID. This is my request, and then basically here I could go in and do the client dot enqueue dot new call request dot enqueue new callback e dot print stack trace, and then if it's successful I'm going to reload. If response is successful, I'm going to reload the list, else I can show a toast message here, get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and I'm going to say get me the messages. So basically it's get messages, will go in and get the new fresh list of messages and allow you to display the new messages. Like for example here, when I click on delete, it's going to delete. When the delete is successful, it will ask to reload the list by calling get messages. Get messages talks to the API, gets the list of messages and displays it, right? Here it is, you see it's deleting. Cool, I can add some messages, hi, and I click submit. So we did implement the full round of creating a message, deleting a message, listing the message here. So that we're done with this one, right? So we go back, here are the forums. Now when you click on delete, you delete the whole forum, right? Click here, these are, you can add some messages here. Here it is, a message. I can go back, click on that, and click here, submit. All right, can go back, and so on. Add here, submit, and I can go back, and basically if you click, you can see your messages, and here are your messages. Good. So we are able to do all of that stuff. Now if I run the app again, you see every time I run the app, it asks me to log in. Every time I run the app, it asks me to log in. I don't want to log in. I wanted to use I wanted to store my login state. You know, I want to log in once, and I want to keep that login token or this auth token for some time. I don't want it to disappear every time I run the app, right? So in order to do that, we're going to use something called share preferences, which I put a link to it in. Basically, a share preferences is a file that's stored under the application folder, and it allows you to store data related to the file. It's a key value pair, right? So basically the code is very simple. There is a way to add something to the shared preference, and there is a way to read something to a shared preference. So basically I'm going to copy this code, and I will have the shared preference in the activity. So in the activity, when the user let's say when the user logs in successfully, right, what I would like to do is I would like to store the data, the login or the authentication token, into the shared preference. All right. So when we are here, this is when the authentication is successful, right? I would like to store the auth data into the shared preferences. Okay. So basically, in order to get the shared preference, I just copied the code. Basically, it needs the context. So the context is the activity. So we are in the activity anyway. So you see here, this is a method in the activity, get shared preferences. Right, so get shared preferences. Here, it needs the name of the file that it's going to store. So it's a file that's stored under the app, and that file is a string. So basically, they are doing it this way. I can just put a string here, but in order to be consistent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string, values a string. And here is the string, here's the name of the string, and I'm going to call it, for example, auth data file. Okay, here it is, close that, and here's the thing here, the preferences key file, and then the context options import. So basically, here is the shared preference. I created the shared preference. I want to store this auth into there. So basically, in order to do that, we don't need this here. I would like to, if you scroll down a little bit, you will see that there is write to shared preference. Cool. So I'm going to copy that. You need to create an editor. There it is. So here basically we already have the shared preference object. You create an editor, and in that editor you put some data. So basically, let's say I wanna, in the editor, I wanna say can I put C? You can only put primitive types: integer, boolean, float, long, string, and string set. But I would like to store this whole object, so that I can receive it. So in order to store the whole object, I would like to serialize it. So I'm going to use the JSON library to do that. So here's the JSON library. I go in, and from using the JSON library, I can serialize it. So basically, let me copy the implementation for the JSON library, go back to the build Gradle, add the JSON library, sync it, all right, and I go back here, and now I'm going to put a string, right? But how will I get that string? I'm going to get that string from here. I'm going to do this. JSON equal new JSON, JSON, here is JSON, equal new JSON, here it is the JSON library, and then I will do JSON dot, you see here, from JSON. No, I wanted to JSON, you see here, to JSON. You give it an object, it returns a string. Cool. So I'm going to do this. What is my object? No, you need a key, the key for the object. I'll call it, for example, auth. Here's the auth information, and then to JSON, and I'm going to put here mauth, the auth. All right. So basically, what I'm doing here is that I'm taking this Java object, all right, and I am changing it into a string. Cool. Changing it into a string using this, and I'm storing that in with a key used called auth. All right. Okay, so let's recap. So what we're trying to do here is we're using the shared preference. We create an editor, and we're going to store a string. That string is the serialization of this auth object, and we do that using the JSON library, right? Okay, and it's stored under auth, right? And then everything is normal. So now, if once the user has logged in, we go in, we have an auth object, and we do all of that stuff, right? Now, when the app first starts, so basically when the app first starts, what I could do is I could go check to see if there is a token, right? So basically I can go in and check to see if there is a token, right? So basically I get the share preference, here it is. So I go in, get the share preference when the app first starts, and then I check to see if shared preference dot contains key, and that key is called token, right? Or auth, I think we called it auth. What did we call it? We called it, where is it? Let's see, close this, close that, not the logout, but here, we called it auth, right? Here it is. So if there is auth, else there is no auth, right? So basically here it is. So now if it's auth, if there is auth, this means you logged in before. If not, you didn't log in, and I'm going to show the login screen. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I need to go get that auth. So now I want to convert the string to an array. So basically I could go here, say a string, the auth string, here is the auth str, equals the share preference dot get string, and it's called auth, right? And it needs a default value. So let's say null, right? That's the default value that I will have. Now I could go and check to see if auth string is equal to null, right? Then I'm going to show the login screen. Else I'm going to show now. Else means that there is an auth string, right? So, and we're good, right? And else we are going to do what? We're going to show. We need to show the forums, right? Forums fragment, right? So in order to show the forums fragment, I need to get an mauth, right? So basically I already have the string. So now I can do the JSON to convert a string JSON to the object again. So here is JSON equal new. It's a very nice library. So here it is, and then I'm going to say mauth equals JSON dot from JSON, and I'm going to pass it the string, the auth str, and I want to pass it. I want to move it to change it to what? To an auth dot class, right? That's the class that I want to change it to. And then now I can just do the same code that I have for loading the go to registration. So basically, when the auth is successful, that's what we are doing here. So I'm going to copy that from here, and I am going to paste it here, right? So basically, auth. So what I'm doing is that if it is successful, if there is an auth object and it's not null, the string is not null, I can go convert the string into an mauth and then display that. So what I need to do also is work on the logout. So basically working on the logout, what I would like to do is I'm going to copy this code here. I want to delete it from the shared preference. So where is the logout case here? Here it is. We deleted it from here. That's good. And then we need to go get the shared preference, create an editor, and then you will see that there is something called editor.remove, and I'm going to remove auth, right? And that also removes it from the share preference. So let's see and run and see. Let's run it first. Run the app first. And here's the app, right? We didn't log in yet, right? Now when I click on login, here is login, right? I'm logged in, right? Good. So now let me run the app again. Okay, I run the app again, and I'm logged in. How did this happen? Because the first time we logged in, we stored. If we look at the login, so when auth is successful, right, we stored actually the auth object that is returned. We changed it into JSON, and then we stored the whole thing into as a string into this auth key, right? We use the auth key to store it. So this is a key value pair that we are storing here, key and value, right? And then we stored it. It gets stored all in a file under the app and under the app folder, which we don't have access to directly here. I'll show you how to get access to it, but we are storing it in the share preference. That's when you first logged in. When you run the app again, we are here. We are looking to the share preference, asking it, do you have an auth? It says yes, we have an auth, and it's not null. So basically, we land here. We use JSON to reverse the operation of changing a string back into an object. Right, so we change the JSON string back into an object like this, and then we pass that mauth object to the forms fragment, and we have now an mauth object. So now when you log out, what we're doing is we are deleting. So basically, when you log out, we are removing that auth key, that auth object that is pointed to by auth, right, from the shared preference, and that deletes it completely. So now when you run the app again, see, it will show the login screen because there is no auth. It does not contain, so it fails this case. It doesn't contain it, so it falls into this side where the login, we go into the login fragment. Now let's log in. I want to show you something. So login, right? So now we're logged in. To show you this, and the file name that we created was called auth data file, right? So basically, if you look at the device file explorer, right, and under the device file explorer, under the data folder, you click on the data folder again. And then what's the package name for this app? com.example.assessment5. So if you scroll down a little bit, here it is, com.example assessment 5. Click here, and then under shared preferences, here is the file. It's called auth __ data file. You see here, that's the name of the file that we get. And then if you right click, and I could say, actually when I double click on it, it opens it here, and you could see that it is storing under auth the whole JSON, a JSON that represents the object. Cool. That's what JSON does. You see here? So basically, this is from the file explorer. When I double clicked, it showed me the data here. You can also right click and save it on your desktop somewhere, or save it somewhere in your on your machine. So you could see that it's a file that's stored. Now, if I go in, if you look at the emulator, right? What I will do is I will right click and delete it. So okay, so this deletes it from the emulator, right? Now when I run the emulator again, see now, am I logged in or no? Now currently I'm not logged in because now this file is deleted. So I run it. Here it is, and it thinks that I'm not logged in because that file doesn't exist. Now we log in, and then we go back. You will see that it already created the file. So let's see. Let me move this to the side here so you could see it, and let me go and check the file. You'll see that the file will be there. So we need to refresh. So synchronize, and here's the file. Double click, and here is the file. Okay, looks good. So that's basically shows you the whole flow of the app. We didn't do the sign up. The sign up is exactly the same as the login. So if you look here, I can do that quickly. So basically I can copy the login code. So you see the sign up. If you look at the sign up API, where is Postman? Here is my Postman. Sign up, there it is. It looks exactly like login. It's a post request, but the body has email, password, and first name and last name. So basically what I could do is in the registration form, I could go to the login and copy the code that we had here. So basically I can go in and copy the code we have here, Control C. I copied it, go to the registration, and I'm gonna put it here. All right, and then I need the client also. I don't have the client, so let's have a client. Where is the client? Here is the client, Control C, and here is the client. Here we are. Okay, good. Here we are. Now we have password, email, and then we have first name and last name. So we have two other parameters: email, password, first name and last name. So F name, L name, F name, and L name, and this is the first name, and then this is the last name. Right here we're good. Now we go back here. We have that. Now the response is exactly the same. So it's exactly the same. So when you try to sign up somebody, let's do another stcomd or something. You click here. You see the response looks exactly the same as the login. You see when you do the login, there is a status, token, user ID, user email, first name, last name, and role. When you go back to the sign up, it's exactly the same. Cool. Now what we need to do here is, I think I don't have the right, so this is when it's successful. I'll just match the same one that we had in the authentication, and we have the sign up done. So basically unable to sign up for some reason, and we can, so the sign up screen is done. Good. So override auth screen, this one goes away. We don't need this one because I changed it to match the login one. So here we are, and you can log out, create a new account. Let's say we create Tom Smith. So this is Tom Smith t@t.com test 1 2 3, and I click on submit, and it takes me here. Welcome Tom Smith. And then we can go here, we can create something here, and I am now Tom Smith. Cool. So we can sign up, log out. Let's log in as t@t.com just to show you that this account was created. Here it is, and I click on login, and here it is, Tom Smith. So the sign up is very straightforward. The interesting thing about these APIs, once you build them, you will be an expert at them, and then you will reuse a lot of the code that you wrote before. All right, please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.